This phrase has resonated with the anime and manga community. From meme culture to social media discussions, we have seen it everywhere. It is clear that I have no enemies has struck a chord. But what does it actually mean, besides the memes that it created? If you haven't watched Vinland Saga or read Vinland Saga, I highly recommend you to do so. Besides the obvious life lessons that we are discussing today, it is also an incredible written story about the life of Thorfinn and how he grew as a person. For the anime watchers, season 1 and 2 are very different but perfect in an individual way. Where season 1 is very fast-paced and action-heavy, season 2 is rather slow-paced and peaceful to develop Thorfinn as a character. The characters are so well written, with Askeladd and Thorfinn being my favorites. Askeladd, even his name, is the most majestic thing I've ever heard. His relationship with Thorfinn is one of a kind. How he was the worst enemy for Thorfinn and became a complicated father figure to him when they traveled alongside each other. But what does I have no enemies actually mean? It became a symbol of choosing peace in a world that often glorifies conflict. In the story, when Thorfinn was a child, he wanted to join his father in battle and took a sword from Thor, his father. However, Thor arrived and took it away, asking his son who he would kill with this. Thorfinn replied that he will kill his enemies, and Thor asked him who is his enemy. His father tells him that he has no enemies, that no one in the world has enemies, and that there's no one he needs to hurt. However, Thorfinn is unable to understand it at the time and runs away. It is only after living a life filled with violence that Thorfinn finally realized the meaning of his father's words. In Vinland Saga's slave arc, the farm where Thorfinn worked as a slave under the ownership of cattle is invaded by Knut's army. This is when Thorfinn gets beaten within an inch of his life, and despite that says, "I have no enemies," so that people don't start an all-out war and spill more blood. He takes 100 punches without fighting back in exchange for having an audience with King Knut and asks him not to take the farm. This act of non-violence has led to the "I have no enemies" quote going viral on social media platforms. Many people have resonated with the sentiments of living a life without hatred and forgiving those who have wronged them. It's not just advice, it's a radical shift from violence to peace. And this isn't about avoiding conflict out of fear, but choosing a different path intentionally. Choosing peace over conflict. This doesn't just mean physical violence, but also avoiding verbal aggression and emotional harm. It's about resolving conflict through understanding and dialogue, understanding life's complexity. This philosophy is especially meaningful in the context of the medieval setting of Vinland Saga. Here, the default response to conflict is often violence, as we have seen mostly in season 1 and also season 2. But the message is clear: no one inherently has enemies. Most situations, even in such a brutal era, have a peaceful resolution. It's about not letting anger or biased perspective cloud our judgment. Sometimes even you yourself are your worst enemy. This is also something that I struggle with, not doing the things I want to do and being too unmotivated and depressed. Leaving your comfort zone is the most satisfying but also difficult part you can do. You're often filled with jealousy, see other people having a more successful and happy life than you, rather than concentrating on yourself and improving. Try being happy for other people's success and rather learn from them instead of envying them. This can also motivate you to be a more successful person. For example, whenever I open social media, there's so much hate, unnecessary hate even. I'm very thankful that I have a community where there isn't much hate. But whenever I open Instagram, for example, I see hate on other people's reels. Not even rarely. The top comment is mostly hate about the creator. Even if it's just a random person, you feel like everyone is your enemy. And I also know that controversial opinions also go viral because they are so controversial and people like to talk about that. But a lot of people should also be critical and realize a lot of this is bait to engage with what the person is saying. But at the moment I thought it was going insane is when I watched an innocent cooking video where I thought there's not a single chance that this has hate. But then I opened the comments only seeing negativity. What world do we live in where people are filled with so many negative emotions? And let's not talk about Twitter. I know it can be fun sometimes to clown on stupid shit that people are saying, but it came to a point where social media is just mostly being hateful to other people. I came to a point in my life where I understand every side of the story. It's not just black and white. It is complicated and there are so many reasons why people do something. I also try to cut out as much social media as I can. It is hard because it's literally made to get you addictive, and it is also hard for me because I'm a content creator, and with that you have to be a bit up to date and know what is trending. But even then, I want to focus more on the things that I like and maybe consume more content that I'm passionate about, for example anime and manga content, and maybe more educational content like finance and so on, and rather watch long-form videos that have a meaning than short-form videos that is rotting your brain like TikToks. What I wanted to say at the end, live as you want and how you want to live. Everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Be kind, always. I have decided for myself to live in peace and working on myself rather than getting angry on the other side. I also wanna recommend a documentary that really hit me about social media. It's called The Social Media Dilemma. I think you should all watch that. It's very interesting and gives you a very different take on other people's opinions and how they are formed, and be more critical in general with what you see on the internet. So what does I have no enemies mean to you? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe if you liked the video.